And welcome to The Public Good. This is Sam Magavern with the Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, which unites 273 community organizations working to build a better Buffalo. Delighted to be joined today by Dan Roma and Dixie Farr from Center for Employment Opportunities. We'll be talking about their work in helping people formerly incarcerated to get employment here in the Buffalo area and some of the issues that arise with that. We're here with you every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Power 96.5 FM and Facebook Live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Don't forget to follow PPG on Facebook and Twitter. And of course, you can always get great information on our website, ppgbuffalo.org. The Public Good is sponsored in part by Univera Healthcare, real people who really care. You can find video from the show on our Facebook page and video from previous week's shows on our YouTube channel. A few quick announcements before we get started. On next Tuesday, June 26th, Push Buffalo is having a tenant right workshop, and they will have with them Buffalo City Housing Court Judge Patrick Carney. So a great opportunity to get to meet the judge of Housing Court himself and talk about housing issues and tenant right issues. That is Tuesday, June 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Push Buffalo. You can find more information on their Facebook event page. Also want to let you know about a speaker coming to town through the Cornell ILR in Buffalo annual faculty speaker event series. We will have Jamila Michener. She'll be talking about her book, Fragmented Democracy, Medicaid, Federalism, and Unequal Politics. That will be Thursday, June 28th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can get more information on the Facebook event page for that or on our website, ppgbuffalo.org. But that is Professor Jamila Michener talking about her book, Fragmented Democracy, Thursday, June 28th, 6 p.m. Thursday, June 30th from 11 a.m. No, that is Saturday or Sunday, I think. June 30th, at any rate, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. is the annual Burmese Water Festival. A great event. We're going to be out there helping to celebrate the most important festival of the year of the Burmese people. That'll be happening on Grant Street, June 30th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right, with that, I want to welcome Dixie Farr and Dan Roma from Center for Employment Opportunities to the Public Good. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So for folks who haven't heard of CEO, do you want to tell us what you do in a nutshell?
You take this one.
Sure. Our mission is to provide comprehensive employment services to men and women who were formerly incarcerated. So our whole goal is to help folks, as soon as they're released, help them get some structure back in. They get into our program, they work on our work crews with the ultimate goal of getting them employment, full-time employment.
It's really a fairly seamless experience that you try and provide people. When they come out of incarceration, they go kind of pretty directly to you, right?
Yeah, it's relatively direct. So most of them express interest either from the orientation that they have to attend upon release, and then from there they'll get a referral sent. And we try to streamline it, make it as easy as possible. Although we just focus on employment, there are other barriers to it. It may be healthcare, it may be childcare, it may be a number of things, transportation. So we refer out as often as we can too.
And I know that you're able to help about 190 people a year, and that your statistics are great. It's been shown that you are able to place people in employment, and that you really help prevent recidivism, help prevent people from ending up back in jail or prison. So it's really a wonderful program. Walk us through it a little bit. So someone comes to you, how does the program work?
Yeah, so there's different kinds of referral processes. I'll let Dixie talk about the program as a whole, but a lot of the times, we get referrals from parole officers. So usually that's how it happens. We get a fax, something like that, a referral, we get their information, or I meet them at parole orientation. Every month we have parole orientation in Erie County. It's mandatory for folks who were just released. So they get to see a lot of community service, mental health, workforce development, things like that. So I'll meet them there and give them Dixie's number and her card so they can call her.
And they do.
All right, then what happens, Dixie? They call you?
So some will call me or some will walk in, which I welcome both, and relatively I welcome both. And I'll give them instructions. If we haven't received the referral, I'll instruct them on how to get it. If we have, I sign them up for the earliest class that we offer. Some of that is needs-based. If we find that a lot of people are coming in and we're not having a class that often, we'll launch one just to have those people come in, because ours is to target recidivism. We don't want people to go back in any way, shape, or form, whether behavior or actual incarceration. So we do that, and if we have gotten their referrals, I'll give them a call, because I kind of do that process too. A call, a text too, because it's 2018. So we have to reach out to them the best way, and we'll offer them the orientation class, answer any questions they have about it. They come on board, do the orientation, and then move into the program.
All right, so orientation, how long does that last?
Usually 3 to 4 days. It's about 20 hours of actual classroom instruction. In those 20 hours, we target anything from what about CEO. They get to meet all the staff. We do a tour of the building, I guess you can say our floor, and what they will see, what they will encounter with us. So they'll learn all of that, the benefits of the program, faux pas, what things they should avoid in the program. Because we want to give people the best tools to succeed. And then from that, we'll go into more training, soft skills, resume building, interview prep, conviction questions, anything like that. And some of it will target as it pertains to like mental health. We have like models like CBI, which is cognitive behavioral intervention, and newly now motivational intervention, which is said to be successful with the population of those in re-entry. So we have like workshops where we'll offer those skills for them to utilize in their day-to-day lives. So get the class, graduate them, and then they start on our transitional job crew.
Okay, so the transitional job crew, tell us how that works.
Yeah, so this is what really differentiates CEO from any really other organization as far as workforce development. Once folks like finish our class, they get to work on our work crews. So instead of really needing to figure out a source of income to pay those basic bills, they get on our work crews 2 to 3 days a week. They get paid every day they work. It gets deposited on a card for them.
Which we give them.
Right, and we give them the card. So they get a little bit of an income. It's not a lot, obviously, but it's enough to pay the basic needs. So to try to put a little barrier between trying to get alternative forms of income. So they have that. But a big bonus of the transitional work crew is learning how to work again. Like we're learning the habits of waking up in the morning. If you don't have a job, you're not waking up at a certain time. You just kind of wake up when you are, you do what you're doing for that day, you go back to bed, right? That's just your life. Our work crews, you have to be there at 8 a.m. You have to be there before 8 a.m. So it teaches you waking up at a certain time, getting on a bus, figuring out transportation, from there working on the work crews, and then leaving afterwards. So there's a lot of soft skills come from the class, and then a lot of those harder skills, those practical learning how to work skills come from that the transitional work environment.
And what sort of work are they doing on your work crews?
So it's traditionally landscaping work. Some of it is kind of construction related. So they may go into homes and remove debris or demoing in some way. We participate in a lot of programs we talked about earlier, the clean sweep. We'll do that. So we try to offer our support in the community. And for me, it kind of dubs in a way to put out there a different face for what people believe is re-entry. These are people you encounter every day. They're not hardened criminals with tattoos everywhere that may scare you. These are people that you see every day in the community, and they can be just as productive as anyone else. So on the crew, they'll participate in that. And like Dan said, that separates us from other programs because it removes kind of the stress of, I need to pay bills, I need to have a phone, I need transportation. It eliminates a lot of that. And also for individuals who've served some time or no time, they probably have never worked before. So while on our crew, they learn those skills, not just how to work with a supervisor, but maybe you've never did landscaping, maybe you don't know what construction is, maybe you're interested in it, and we can kind of interject or kind of instill some skills-based or informative ways for you to okay, this is maybe something I can go into, maybe something I'm interested in.
Or
so that's
taking direction. That's a big one, taking direction. If you never viewed in your life that you would have to work for someone else, or in a formal setting, like you may have never thought in your life that you would be working in an office or working in wherever, like a factory, a warehouse, anything like that. Learning how to just, when somebody says go do this, you just go do it. That's a skill, and that's something that you really need to learn how to do. So it helps with that too.
So that ability to put people right on your own work crews. As you said, it gives people an income right away, which is crucial, and then they're developing those soft skills, those job skills that they might not have already. I noticed you said it's part-time. I'm guessing that's because you want them out looking for permanent work the rest of the time. so that's why you keep it to part-time employment then?
Yeah.
So then you're helping them look for that permanent employment, so tell us about that process and how that goes.
Well, I'll let you touch on it, but another component that I don't want to miss is we want them to look for work too, but they also meet with me post-class for job coaching. So one of the days that they're not working on crew, they can meet with me and maybe make it more personalized for what they need to develop as a new employee in this 2018 world.
Great.
I'll let you take that part.
Well, yeah, and you know, in any like program, right, you need a way to get people to stay in the program, right? Even if you're like doing things well, even if you're successful, you need a way to help keep people in it. So one of the things that's nice is if you're getting 2 to 3 days of work, all you have to do on one of those other days is come in and meet with our job coach, or you come in and meet with our job developer who does more of the actual placing and finding the jobs and that kind of stuff. So it's very incentivized. You know, if you don't come in that one day for the job search services, you might not get to work a couple days the next week. So it's like the best of both worlds because you are getting the job search help, but you're also getting the money. So it's kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
It models itself.
Right. Yeah.
So for our office, some offices do it uniquely different, but it's relatively uniform across all of us. For job development, usually the relationship between all of our services is really tight. So we all know one another's role. We kind of overlap in some ways, and the participants know that we know everything together.
Yeah.
So the job coach, myself, and the job developer, her name is Sarah, she will meet with myself and Dan, who's in retention, and we'll talk about participants with the site supervisors. We'll get a feel of what they're interested in as far as work, because we don't want them to go a certain way. We want them to have gainful employment as something that they'll be interested in, invested in. So we'll kind of gauge what they're interested are, gauge what their skill sets are, and then kind of provide to them kind of a map of what they can or cannot do, or the opportunities that they can or cannot explore. It's not just jobs. Sometimes they want to go to school, and maybe that's the best way to launch you into success. So we'll be proponents of that too. So the job developer will have those conversations with us. She'll review resumes, and then she'll meet with them one-on-one and say, this is what I know of, providing them leads. And the expectation is that they come with job leads to things that they're interested in. And then we'll just kind of assist them in the way that they want to secure full-time employment with a little bit of push.
Right.
Obviously, it's not easy for anyone with a criminal record. It's not easy for anyone to get a job, but especially if you have a criminal record. What are some of the occupations or sectors or industries where you are finding some success in placing people?
Our leading one, at least for us, is construction. A lot of our population is male, at least from our referral base is male, and that is a field that is very flexible. A lot of people have a lot of opportunities for growth. It doesn't require a degree for growth, either in status or in pay, so a lot of people are interested in that. That's kind of one of ours.
And past that, warehouse work, manufacturing. We have some guys who go into retail, stuff like that. But a lot of the times, and we have a good number that go back to school, especially that Houghton program now.
Oh, interesting.
So they have a specific program now for reentry.
And that's to get a college degree or GED or both? Or?
So it's a really cool program. It's through Houghton College and Peace Prince. They work together. So they host, it's 2 years, it's an associate's degree, it's a cohort model. So they give you the laptop, they give you the books, they help you fill out the FAFSA, and there's maybe 10 to 12 people in each class. But it lasts for, like I said, 2 full years. You get an associate's degree and it's transferable. So you get a lot of the gen eds out of the way that you would normally have to pay a lot more money for, and maybe in a better setting than trying to go into lecture halls, especially gen eds going into lecture halls with all that kind of stuff.
So one of the things we've studied here at PPG that you see, I know, day to day is that over the last couple of decades, crime rates have been going down throughout the country, including around here in Western New York and in New York State. But arrests and convictions and incarcerations have been going up, even while crime has been going down because of the various tough-on-crime laws, drug laws that have been called the new Jim Crow because of their intense racial disparities with the impacts of those laws. And we've studied those here at PPG and done reports on that. So, in other words, more and more people are passing through the criminal justice system, including a lot of people who in previous years wouldn't have gone through it at all because their offense was not that major or because they never would have got arrested in the first place. So your work becomes all the more important. and there are more and more people out there with convictions on their records. So for all those folks who have to find a job, what's the advice that you give them about dealing with that conviction on their record? How do they go about applying for jobs when that's the barrier looming?
So if you are on parole or probation, you can come see us. Take full advantage of our program. But if not, and that's something you're not interested in, I tell people to do your research, do your homework, know what you plan to encounter, and to prepare for it in advance. And I don't say things as cliche. If anyone from the program either attended or graduated, they know I say things with intention. If you know better, the expectation is that you do better. Right. So I think that if they come prepared for what the work road is, so a lot of them come with law knowledge, and they'll say, oh, they can't ask me that, or they can't say that. So we kind of inform them, no, they kind of can. And even if they don't, if they do, what do you do?
So we have ban the box law here in the city of Buffalo, but that's just inside city limits where employers aren't allowed to put that box on the application that asks about convictions. They can later ask you in an interview or that sort of thing. It's just that initial application where they can't ask, but that's just in the city of Buffalo. So most people, they're going to have to answer that question either on the initial application or later in the interview. So what do you tell them specifically about answering the question about convictions?
Yeah, so this is a whole section of our class called the conviction question, and the biggest aspect of it is just to own your story. You want to tell your story as a success, right? So you talk about what happened in your life, like how what you faced, the situation, right? Give context. Like, I was hanging out with the wrong people, I was engaging in the wrong activities, I was addicted to something, right? You talk about it, you own it. You don't try to put it on somebody else. You don't say it was circumstantial, right? You own it. From there, you talk about the steps you've taken. So a lot of the times when you're incarcerated, you have programs you can attend, whether it's anger management, whether it's AA, NA, stuff like that. So talk about the steps you've taken since that point, like what has changed in your life. And then at the end, you talk about what you want to do going forward, right? I think a lot of the things, and a lot of the times when people come into our program, they do this where they're just going, I'm just trying to be better, or I want to be good now, or I'm going to be good now, or I'm going to do the right thing now. And that's fine, and that's good, but what is the right thing? If you can define what that is to whoever's interviewing you or listening to your story, you're going to have a way better shot, right? All I want to do now is I want to get a job, I want to work my way up, I want to have a house, like I have a family, I want to provide for them. I'm going to have a lot more incentive to hire you and believe you and listen to your story if I know you're doing it for the right reasons, not just because you want money or want income.
What we have run into a lot, that's Dan's area, he loves talking about the conviction question. What we have run into a lot is a lot of people get into this kind of spill your guts results when they get into an interview.
Owning it too much.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure now, like from society and when you're like to own it too much, to be like, I did all these things, like telling your, and that's good and that's nice, but a lot of the times people can't relate to it.
A job interview might be too much information.
Way too much.
And speaking of job interviews, that's a whole other thing, right? If you've never gone on a job interview, what's a job interview like? Right? Like just the fact that you have to sit there and pretend to be, not just, I'm sorry to go off on it, but like the job interview stuff is like you're sitting there, they're asking you questions, and you have to kind of not be fake, but kind of be fake, right? You don't really get to act like your normal self. You have to answer the questions the way they want them answered, right? So there's all these things included with the conviction question in telling your story. And then if you're in that interview where they're going, why is this guy spilling his guts in front of me right now? This is a job interview, and they're going, oh, but I was being honest. I thought you would appreciate this. Yeah. There's a lot of things with that dynamic, especially with interviewing, that it's a big deal.
There's a whole sort of culture of jobs and job interviews and things.
Yeah.
That if you've never done it, you don't know. There are all these little rules of etiquette.
Exactly.
Right. Or just the questions themselves, right? Like, tell me about yourself. Okay, what do you want to know, right?
Yeah.
Like, we teach people in class, we'll be like, tell them something nonchalant, right? Like, I like hanging out at Canal Side, things that are like kind of about yourself, but not like, there's like things you don't want to say in interviews, right? But if somebody just says, tell me about yourself, what do you say? There's like a guide, there's guides written, online of what to say in that situation. But if you've never had to do it, There's all these things that just don't make any sense, and that's one of the nice things about this job. I feel like I've learned a lot of people just being, why are they asking me that? I go, I don't know, but I had to answer that question too. Like I don't know.
I tell people in the class that when they ask you, tell me about yourself, they don't know you.
Right.
If they haven't looked at your resume, or if they haven't, they only know you from what they observed on an application. That's black and white. So they're trying to see how you will fit for their company.
Right.
And you can only provide them with that. So when they say, tell me about yourself, you want to say something about yourself. Something that's personal, that speaks to your personality and your character. Something that speaks to you as a worker, how you would be as an employee. Something that they can say, yes, this person would be a good fit. Not just for the role, but for the other people they'll be working with too, for the supervisor. So it's a number of things that people actually look for that are found in the responses. So once they see the depth of what the questions mean, it kind of takes a turn, like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way.
And we just spent 8 minutes talking about something that is like 1% of the job hiring process. So that shows how complex the whole the situation is.
Right. So once someone gets on the job, I know, Dan, you work on retention. What are the biggest challenges with keeping a job for people who've been incarcerated?
A lot of it, honestly, is doing this. I think that it's hard to come to terms with the fact that a lot of jobs are just kind of doing the same thing every day, which isn't, that's just reality, and like everybody faces that in life for the most part. But having a job where you're kind of like going in and you're just doing the same thing over and over again, and that's your days and that's what you're doing. I would say that's part of it, and another one would just be it's authority. There's still some issues with authority, not with everybody, but everybody's boss has a bad day, right? And it's a learned skill to be able to go, oh, that was just a bad day. They're gonna forget about that tomorrow. Like I can just handle this hour that they're yelling at me or something bad is happening, and I'm just gonna go about my day versus going, I don't need to deal with this. I'm going home. And there's a lot of times where people will do that, and then you're kind of like, but you were there for 3 months. You're making a good wage. You really liked the job, and you couldn't listen to that for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's unfair, but now you have your whole life. We have to figure this out again. So there are things like that too.
Yeah, definitely those patterns of behavior that may have been learned, that you kind of have to learn new skill sets to deal with.
If you've learned all these skills and ways to deal with situations from your quote unquote like criminal activity, if you've learned all these skills and ways to do things in that life, changing them completely is it's a difficult task.
And then I've often heard it said that surviving in jail and prison requires a very certain set of skills to defend yourself and make sure that you get through your days, and that those skills are that may be very useful in keeping you alive and whole in prison are really not the skills that you want outside of prison.
Exactly.
And that can be very difficult in the workplace for some of the issues that you're talking about. You might have needed to be very tough and make sure that no one disrespected you, and of course, you don't. I'm sure it's difficult for you because you don't want people to get treated unfairly in the workplace, and of course, there's a lot of that out there, and people's rights get violated all the time in the workplace, and you don't want to facilitate that. At the same time, you want people to keep their jobs, so that must be tough in your role.
Yeah.
It is tough. I think we encounter that day one of referral, where it's kind of unlearning some of the things that you have become accustomed to. So if you are in a situation where maybe your rights are being infringed upon, what's the right way to approach it? Do I want to maintain employment while I'm approaching it? So it's things like that we can give like sound advice or direction on to, and not just because people have this perception of what prison may be, or we take people from probation too. So they may have this perception of it as tough and survival of the fittest, but a lot of people we encounter come out antisocial. It's just isolation, self-strain. And that's a totally different world when you're working in a work environment with a number of employees as a team, accomplishing a goal or a task, even if it's moving a box. This person may be too slow, this person may be too fast, where you wouldn't have to worry about that in a different environment. So some things we try to kind of target that we know has been problematic, so that when they get to a 365
Right.
years of employment, because that's
Yeah.
our goal.
Yeah.
That there's like, okay, yeah, I know how to navigate this a little better.
Right.
So you all are helping people find and keep jobs, but of course there's so much more to life outside the workplace as well that can be very challenging for someone coming out of incarceration or on probation. Talk to us about kind of, in terms of how we as a community are helping people in this situation, where are some of the big gaps, and where are you seeing people fall through the gaps and not succeed because we don't have the right systems in place?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Western New York actually or Erie County has a unique system in place. We're one of the few areas that has that parole orientation I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of cities across the country, it's kind of just like you get let out of prison. They might give you an ID card because those are useful, right? A photo ID card, and then that's it. They just kind of let you go. See you later. Report to parole. That's your life now. In Erie County, when you're released, within the first month you're released, you have to attend parole orientation. At parole orientation, there's usually between 12 and 15 service providers. It ranges from mental health to housing to job help to addictions counseling, things like that, everything you can think of, to education too. And so there's that. You have to be linked to a mental health service as soon as you're on parole. So a lot of that's through like Spectrum now, Mid-Erie. I would say, so as far as that goes, I would say we're pretty advanced. But as the issues fall more in the coordination, as with everything. There's a lot of nonprofits that kind of work in reentry, and there's some of them do kind of the same thing, some of them do a little bit different, but the referral process to each other can be troublesome. The referral process in general is troublesome, but transportation is the biggest one.
Transportation.
Erie County transportation is tough. It takes a unique job developer, like the person who, she does Sarah does the work of actually going like, okay, you live here, bus line, let's figure it out, in a lot of cities you wouldn't need to do that. You have the metro, you have the ways to get around the city that are easy, and there's things like that. But in Buffalo, just getting downtown sometimes, I'll have the guys who will call and be like, I don't have enough money to get downtown, and it's like that. How? Why is it you know what I mean? A lot of cities it's not that as difficult, I guess.
Yeah, you might have seen the report we did last year where we found that over 50% of the jobs in this region are not accessible by public transit. So that's more than half the jobs right away that people aren't going to be able to apply for if they don't have a car. Well,
and it goes hand in hand with what we were saying earlier about Ban the Box, where all of these places are building outside of the city. So factories, warehouses, all these places that actually need large workforces are building where there's a large workforce. They're building 10, 20-minute drive from the city. So, and you'll run into guys who will go, I walked 3 hours to work this morning, and you're just blown away with how much effort they're putting into the situation, but it shouldn't be necessary. So I would say the transportation is honestly the biggest one, because I feel like that if I can't get to my appointment, why? Transportation. I couldn't get to my other appointment, I can't report, you know what I mean? All these things, it seems like they come back to transportation.
I'm guessing housing is...
I was just going to say housing.
Maybe the next biggest barrier.
I'm thinking of the complaints I receive and the things I try to approach day to day. Housing is one, so safe housing, affordable housing. I think those services exist for people to utilize. A lot of times the overlap is lost, where you have to attend this appointment, but you're required to be at this place at this time. So those competing demands oftentimes become
in different
chaotic.
Sections of the city.
Right. They become chaotic, and for people who aren't really necessarily used to managing their own lifestyle, it becomes cumbersome or distracting in some ways, and sometimes it can be disheartening, especially if they've walked 3 hours to start a shift, or if they applied for 50 jobs and got one call back. So some of those things I think our community can change too, just in general, our perception of what we think people on parole or probation are. Because once we change that, it'll kind of change the nature of what we do day to day. We shouldn't have to fight about a check the box. People should you should take it for what it is. Everything comes with challenges and change, but at the same time, potential.
All right, well, we are running out of time. I want to thank Dixie Farr and Dan Roma from Center for Employment Opportunities, CEO, doing great work in our community, connecting people coming out of incarceration and people on parole with job opportunities, and encourage everyone, if you know of someone in that situation, to reach out to CEO and connect them with that great service. So thanks so much for being on the show, you two.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Next week on The Public Good, we'll be talking with Trina Burris. She's with Northwest Bank. We'll be talking about their new financial literacy center that they're opening on Jefferson Street and other efforts to build bridges between the bank and the community and help more people who are currently unbanked to become banked. It's The Public Good, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on Power 96.5 FM and Mix 1080 AM, and at 1 p.m. every Tuesday on Facebook Live. Thank you.